Thanks for coming. Everybody's got their coffee and settling in. All right, so today we're going to be talking about software updates using Casper Suite version 9. This is intro. We're going to take about a 10,000-foot view. We're going to go over all the necessary things that you'll need to get started. So, what do you want to do with your life? Oh, wrong slide. Cole, what do you want to do?
I don't know.
I'd like to rock. You guys want to rock? Are we awake? All right. All right. So as I said before, we're going to be deploying deploying software updates with version 9. My name is Lucas Kraus. I work out of Minneapolis. I'm an account manager. Maybe I'm your account manager. And my colleague here.
Cole Turner, I'm an account manager as well, out of the Minneapolis office. Lucas here is actually my team lead, and perhaps some of you are my clients as well. So.
And again, thanks for coming. So today, here's what we're going to work through. How do software updates work? We're going to go through configuring them using OS 10, 10.6.8, 10.7, and 10.8. We're also going to walk through configuring NetSUS, and again, it's going to be high level. It's going to be screenshots that you're going to see as you're working through it. We'll also work through the JSS, deploying these updates after we have our software update server configured. And finally, as a bonus, we've got a Q&A with our award-winning support specialist, Bram Cohen. He did win the Gold Star Special Award. So.
Congratulations, Bram.
Thanks, Bram. So how do software updates work? When you get a machine brand new from Apple, they're automatically looking to Apple for software updates. It happens, they're pre-scheduled, it's over the air, and because any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, it's automagic. And why are they important? Well, security. So as we've seen, OS updates can sometimes have flaws or defects. So we await the next one and hope that those security issues have been addressed. Also stability. We might be able to name one or two favorite applications that might not be as stable as we like, so we wait on the next update. And additional functionality. We see that Apple likes to, they don't call it beta, but we see that they put out a product, and there's some features that might be lacking or that we're looking for, and every subsequent update brings just a little bit more functionality, and hopefully it's relatively bug-free. And now to talk about setting up the software update server, I'm going to bring on Cole.
All right. Everybody doing well? Good? All right. No one's fallen asleep yet? Just wait till we get the screenshots. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be awesome.
Cool. So yeah, setting up a software update server. On 10.6.8, we're going to be working with the server admin tool. On 10.7 line, we're going to be working with a server app in the server admin tool. And on 10.8, we're going to be working strictly with the server app. There we go. All right. So server admin tool. It is built in natively to 10.6.8, so we don't have to worry about getting it anywhere. No app store, no links or anything weird like that. We can just roll with it. Server app, 10.7 on Lion. Pull that out from the app store. And for the server admin tool, for actually using the software update service, we do need the server admin tool on 10.7. So we showed you a little link there. We can go and grab that, and you can get that service available to you. All right, so on to our screenshots. There's only about 60, so don't even worry about it. We just wanted to give everybody a nice play-by-play. Hopefully it's not too boring. We're going to try to bedazzle them a little bit to keep you awake. But for here, we're just setting up a server. So address, we just called it lion software update.local. Gave it a username. Got a password there. Connect. All right, so we do see available server there for us. You have the overview, we have the logs, graphs, server updates, access, and settings. Those are kind of the options you can have within the server admin tool to configure your services. We're going to click settings, and we're going to go to enable software update service here. So we can do that. And obviously you can see here, under servers there, we have the software update there. The green light is not on. Obviously, it says software update service is stopped, so it's not running. And by the arrows, you can see, we can start it below at the bottom there. So once we click that, we can see the software update service is running. We have our magic green light that's on, and it shows its start time for when it kicked off. So now if we click the Updates tab here, we have no updates available because nothing's been downloaded yet. We haven't received anything, but it's running and it's going. So next check-in, boom, we have lots of updates. I'm sorry if this is redundant and everybody's done this before, but beginner's course, we wanted to go through everything. But it shows the names of the updates, shows the version of the updates we got going, shows the size of the updates. You can see the post dates of them, and then obviously a brief description on anything such as bug fixes, anything that goes along with the update and what it fixes. So we move forward. So setting up a symbolic link. So we basically set up a symbolic link. It's not a documentation or anything to integrate software update servers with the JSS. And this is done on 10.7 and 10.8. And basically, the JSS appends an index.su catalog to the end of the software update server URL in the JSS. So on 10.6.8, this isn't a problem because that's where software updates are located. But when we go to 10.7 and 10.8, they've changed the location to catalogs.su catalogs. And we can run this simple command to create a symbolic link to point our software update server and the JSS to actually link them together. So what we're showing here is server import, and that's where you'd enter your software update server URL. And then we're actually going to show you the command here. All right. Everybody look at it? Good? OK. Cool. And then we showed you actually running on terminal on the server that you'd be running the software update service on. So you can see that up there. Absolutely. And setting up the software update server for 10.8. So we'll install and configure the server app, turn on the software update server, and we can create the symlink as well. And it's basically the same process. It's just a little different. The file path is just a little different for 10.8. But as you can see here, we have a configured server app. We're looking down on our services. We select software update. Well, all we have to do is turn it on. You can select automatic updates. You want them automatically downloaded from Apple, or you can select manual, and you can choose the updates you'd like to download and enable. It's basically up to you. All right. This is us turning it on. You can't see the green light, but you can see that it's reading updates, and it's trying to pull them down. And then there we go. We can see the updates available. And the only difference here is if you want to see a description of it, you just double-click on the update, and you can see a description of what's going on with it. All right. And this is Symbolic Link for 10.8. So it's just a little bit different. So we thought we'd write it down, give you guys access to that if you want to do it. We do highly recommend this workflow. Bram kind of talked with me and Lucas about it, and it just saves a lot of issues before when you want to set things up. There's other options, and we are going to show you that, with such as like the defaults rights command and such. But I think the Symbolic Link is a really good way to go about things. It's simple. You saw the command. Type it in. You're good. So. All right. And then there's just a screenshot of doing that as well in terminal. All right. And Lucas is going to happily talk to you about the NetSUS appliance.
Thanks. So how many people have attempted to download and install the NetSUS? All right, for a show of hands. Cool. So the NetSUS appliance is it's an appliance that Jamf software makes available for download in Jamf Nation. It's actually built on the open source project Reposado, which is alternative software update server. And as you can see by our descriptions on the board here, it's hosted on Linux. It's particularly on Ubuntu 10.04 and 12.04. The nice thing about the NetSUS is it gives you a web GUI, which you can configure through the front end, whereas Reposado is command line only. Bram, right? So we make it available two ways. One is an installer, so if you have a standalone box or a VM already, you can install it that way. Or it's prepackaged as an appliance, and you can deploy it that way. Have any of you ever felt like this? Yeah. Brian? Yeah, right on. So hopefully this high-level overview will give you an idea of the screens that you're going to see when you're setting it up, so you'll know what to expect. Right here, the only thing we're showing is using wget to go out to the save location that we host the netsus on. And it downloads as a .run. And here we're just indicating that it's a fully downloaded installer. And at this point, we can go ahead. And because it comes down as a .run and it's not in a zip, we can just use sudo sh to run the installer. And here, it's just prompting us, do we want a standalone? Yes, because we're not going to deploy the virtual machine. So the only thing we're showing in this screen is it's giving us an indication of the things that will be installed, which is the web interface, the GUI, a Netboot server, and the SUS itself. So we'll go ahead and click yes and install. And finally, we're going to want to reboot after it is fully installed, just so that we have a stable system and we can ensure all processes are running as they should be. So after reboot, we're met with an informational screen, which is pretty handy. It gives us the URL that we can hit the netsus on. I'm going to try to point at it there. Here, and then username and password, which is default for every installation, is webadmin. Once we have this informational screen up on our server, it's ideal that you use a separate machine to try to access the netsus on. That way we can verify that everything is running and the web application is up. So the first thing that you're going to see when you try to log into the netsus is not Tim Cook. It is actually the error for an untrusted certificate because it uses the built-in CA for the web application. So we can trust it. We also have the ability to integrate with like a third-party public web cert. If you need to do that, that's something you can do. And if you're interested in that, I can give you Bram's number. So when you log in, this is the interface that you're going to see right away. Note that we updated it for version 9. And again, the credentials from the previous information screen, webadmin for both username and password. And the first screen that you see when you log in is just security warnings concerning the web application, shell, and then the share services, AFP and SMB. You're going to want to update the credentials here with security in mind, being that this has root access on your machine. So these are the screens that you'll see. We'll click Settings. We'll go into Accounts, Update, Save, Shell, Update, Save. Anybody asleep yet? AFP, Update, Save, and SMB. So then we'll click into Network. And here we have the ability to update the host name if you're using .local. You can also change from DHCP to a static IP if you're going to assign one in your environment. Identify a gateway if you require a particular one, and point to any DNS servers if those are also defined in your environment. And finally, here at the bottom of the screen, we have Enable SSH. This is so you can remotely manage the netsus without having to log into it every time. So if you click Save here, we'll see that SSH is enabled, and our host name was carried over. So if you need multicasting in your environment, you can install a Vahi, which enables that. And we just run the apt-get in terminal to do so. And here's the screens that you'll see if you need to install multicasting. Gives you an indication of how much disk space it requires. We'll click Yes. Go ahead and install. And again, anytime we make any changes to services, we're going to want to shut down or reboot the machine. So here, we have the ability to specify the URL of your software update server, or make that host name change if you hadn't done that previously. And we can now specify the root branch as indicated in this text box here. So we'll put in our URL. We'll click add, and it will add it as root. And we'll give it a daily sync time, and that's the time when the NetSUS appliance will go out, will call to Apple, look for any changes and updates, and download those to your appliance. So if you click on root, or if you had defined additional branches, you'll be able to see specifically the downloads or the updates that it's currently pulling down. And from here, you can identify if you want them all or if you just want to pick a few. The reason that this is helpful is if you have a large or a complex environment, you can identify multiple branches and set those out for testing groups of machines. So if you're running like in-house apps or you have apps that don't take to updates very well, it'll give you the ability to kind of quarantine those machines, point them at a separate SUS branch, test them out, and not break your entire environment when the update comes through. So that was a real high overview of the NetSUS appliance. And now to talk about setting up our predefined software update server in the JSS, I'm going to turn it back over to Cole.
All right. Here we go. So we're going to actually set up our software update servers that we configured in the JSS. Here we go. We like that slow comment. We wanted to waste a little bit of time, so I hope that took about 5 seconds. But so we have computer management here, and we have our server infrastructure, and we're just going to click on software update servers here. And when you click on that, you'll be met with this screen. Obviously, we haven't added anything yet, but we can click the plus sign there for new, and we can give it a go. And we get met with this screen here, the display name. You can name it whatever you'd like. That's completely up to you. We do need to enter the server and port, so the host name or IP of the software update server. And the port number is default. It'll automatically input is 8088. You can input that. We showed you what we did here. So Mountain Lion software update local is what we worked with, and we named it 1068 SUS. Here we go. So after this, we've added a few extra ones, and we just wanted to show you what it was like to add a few different software update servers within. All right. So creating a policy to deploy updates. We'll show you how to create a policy using the symbolic link method that we talked about earlier, if you'd already implemented that into your environment. Or we're going to dig a little bit into the defaults write command, if that's the route you'd like to go as well. We recommend the symbolic link, but it's really up to you. All right, so this is the policy screen. Say this is a new JSS, automatically prompted with an inventory update. That's a default when it comes with the JSS on an installation. So we're just going to click and make a new policy. And within there, we're going to configure the general pane. So display name for the policy, whether it's enabled or not. You can put a new category if you're a very organized person. I assume probably a lot of you are. That's a good idea. If not, I'm not very organized, so I usually leave that part out. The trigger, that's the events we use to initiate the policy, and you can kind of pick through there. I'm sure everybody's kind of worked with that before. So startup, login, log out, network change state, yeah, anything you want. We're actually going here below, and we're just scrolling down in that screen. So we're using recurring check-in. I think we're on the every 15 trigger is that we're going to use for this. And then basically that's it. We haven't set any of those up. And then we wanted to show the client-side limitations. So do not run this policy between such and such times. So you can pick days of the week and select times, network connection. That's really up to you. All right, so now we've gone over, we configured that part. So we're going to configure the software updates version part. And we basically selected the server that we wanted to use. So specific software update server. We're not going to go from Apple. And we selected our 10.8 SUS that we installed. There we go. So we're showing the scope now. I think sure everybody knows about scope and how it works. Basically specific computers, groups, sites, anything you want to scope to. We just wanted to make sure, scope them. All right, so creating policy using defaults write command. If you don't use the symlink option, we still need to, the JSS is still going to put in the index.su catalog at the end, so we still need to point the machines to the correct catalogs.su catalog. So this is something you can input into the policy in the file and processes option. And you can still point to your software update server. You can go through there, but we just need to use a defaults write command to go through with that. So it's basically looking at that plist and then catalog URL, and then going through and pointing to the catalogs.su catalog. So we'd configure our software update server again and do it the same way we did it before. And this time, we would go down, we'd hit the file and processes, which is all the way at the bottom of the list. And then at execute command, which I don't know if some people might have used execute command for some things, sudo jamf manage, anything like that. But yeah, so the command execute on computers, and that's going to run as root and just go right through. So you can point those machines to that through a policy right there. All right. And this is just showing the user interaction. If you want to put a start message on the policy or a complete message, or allow deferral to the end users, we just wanted to show you what this looks like and what options you possibly have. I don't know if a lot of you have played with it yet or anything like that, but it's a good little feature to have. All right, and this is if we were going to set up the updates in self-service. Obviously, we click the self-service pane. We make the policy available in self-service. You go through, you can click icons for what you'd like. You can make a description of it, like, oh, do this, it's going to cause you to reboot, anything like that. Feature it on a certain page. Just make it a little bit user-friendly for the end users. All right, and this is what it would look like in the JSS if you enabled it for self-service, or sorry, not the JSS, in self-service. But yeah, software update root branch, we have it there. And we selected the info button and our very detailed description. By clicking this button, all available software updates will be installed. So pretty straightforward. And this is after it's run. We can see it's completed up in the top left, and everything should be updated. So now we're going to move on to Casper Remote. So installing update via Casper Remote application. All right. So we have all computers here, selected on the top left. We're going to use Mountain Dude. I think that's Lucas's computer. So we check that off, and you can see it in the top left under selected computers as well. All right. And this is basically the task started off. So we have the packages pane, and at the bottom we have software update. And we can click install all updates there. So then you can see at the top install updates and then restart package if software updates requires a restart. And then boom, we have this screen. So you can basically see in the current activity showing the computer name and then showing the status of installing all software updates. All right. So we took up the whole hour. Overview. We set up the software update server on multiple versions of OS 10. We explored the NetSUS application and its capabilities. We linked our software update server to the JSS and deployed updates via Casper 9. And it kind of rocked. We'll see. But that's about it, guys. It's a short one for us. So thanks.
So now we can do a short question and answer.
And get everybody to lunch.
Yeah.
Come, Bram.
Hi.
Hey.
Two questions. One, can I assume that if I'm upgrading from Casper 8.7 to 9, my SUS settings will transfer over? And the second question is, can you talk a little bit about the difference between the Symlink and the defaults right?
Sure. So
Routes.
yeah, when upgrading, your settings should carry. Bram, do you want to address the?
There's a slight change. I don't know.
Oh,
There we go.
Can we grab that mic?
There's a slight change in 9 where we're setting the server and running the updates at the same time, the same payload, what looks like a payload, but it's more the pane. So that should carry over with whenever it's set, it will run those updates. So in this case, we used once per computer where we could set it to any interval you'd like. So those would carry over. Any interval you like, so once a week, once a month. Your client-side limitations was set there.
So differences between using the Symlink and the default
yes.
write command?
Mm-hmm. The Symlink method allows you to use the JSS functionality natively, where you can select the server from the dropdown. It does it in a one punch with the setting the server URL. Will install the updates and set the server at the same time repeatedly over and over again. Also using the built-in, it will set it for the user and the system. Whereas with the defaults right, we're setting at the system level. So in case a user had already set it, it will reset that. Yeah. We're working on fixing that, by the way. So we might not need the defaults right in the future, but at this point, we will need it.
And there may or may not be a feature request on Jamf Nation right now that you could go upvote.
I know you folks covered the NetSuite appliance. Anyone want to, any of you guys want to take a gander at talking about the Netboot part of that appliance?
Not really.
Come on, Brian.
Sorry, that was when we tried setting that up. I was going to say, we tried setting up the NetSuite appliance, and really all it was doing for me was the software updates. It did that really well, but the Netboot one, that's the one I need working. So, alrighty, sorry.
I'm using it for Netboot. Most.
Yeah, there we go. Right here.
Oh, you were commenting on that?
Yeah.
I'm using it for Netboot, and the biggest thing was to make sure that our network had helper statements set up, having it on its own VLAN, and removing all the helper statements except for the Netboot. Otherwise, we couldn't get it to see it. And depending on which OS you had to hold the N key down to get it to boot to it. You couldn't select it from the system preference. It wouldn't show up in the system preference. And I'm off the top of my head, I don't remember which OSs appeared which way, but.
Oh, really? Did everybody hear that? No?
Varies based upon what?
Based on your networking equipment.
Yeah, it'll depend based on how your environment is set up.
Okay. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you guys have a good recommended way of actually cleaning up the NetSuite appliance of essentially depreciated updates. You know, we have, I don't know how many 10.6 updates that we really don't need. And because of that, our NetSuite appliance takes up a little over 100 gig.
Oh.
So it'd be just kind of nice to clean up that storage space and just make it a little nice and neater.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Do you know?
Feature request. Yeah, it being an open source project, it really, there's no way yet. I guess you could probably just reset the branch, delete out the branches and start again.
Yeah.
Is there a way to kind of clean up the, I guess the software update server, like for mobile users, if they go offsite, like is there a way to do it temporarily? So, you know what I mean?
So, yeah,
So-
in 9 you can set limitations. So we could set a limitation that it be on your network segment. That's what we do.
And then if they go offsite, does it default back to Apple?
No, not by default. You'd have to do defaults right.
Okay.
Or it just won't run the policy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my idea.
So to just
That's a good
wait.
question.
Yeah.
We can discuss that one if you want to talk to me afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry guys.
They want you to take mine.
While he's doing that, I had a question. In regards to downloading the apps, in his comment about 100 gigs of data, does it download everything for the entire branch or only what's selected? And if you have multiple branches, does it download them for each branch? Does that work?
So we're talking about the NetSuite? NetSuite will, by default, there's a checkbox at the beginning screen that says download these updates. In its default state without that checkbox, it'll actually still point to Apple. So the URLs that are actually contained in the catalog are actually pointing to Apple. So you can limit what updates are actually going to go to the clients rather than actually download them, if you kind of catch my drift. So it's a way of limiting what updates are available to the clients. You can download all of them just by checking that box. Next update will automatically reset the catalogs and then download them. Sorry. Maybe.
So from the actual NetSuite, when you see the list of all the available updates, the whole list, are all those ones that have downloaded from Apple and are available on my NetSuite, or by checking them in that list, are they then coming down to my NetSuite?
That list is what's provided the catalog from Apple itself. from their catalog. So it's just replicating the catalog locally, and it's reading from that catalog what is available to download or to serve. Right. So when you check it, then it starts downloading, and download or check and apply.
And the other on the NetSUS, there's a little gear icon. You can do an overlay, and it'll tell you what the name of the update is from Apple and all the information. Right now, that's just sort of and I guess I'll call it a feature request. You can hover over it.
Yeah. Could you kind of paraphrase that so everybody else could hear?
Okay, so, and you could probably bring up the screenshot, but there, off to the right, when you're looking at the list, there's a little gear icon. You can hover over and it'll give you the info from Apple as to what it is. The nice thing is it'd be nice to be able to click on that and actually go to the info from Apple. Right now, it's not clickable and it tends to cut off. Now, at least I'm on the 8s, I'm not on the one that was updated for 9, so.
Okay.
So I may be behind 1 or 2 versions. But it ends up being that I have to sit there and I have to look at the name of the update, and in several cases they're the same name, so I don't know what the differences are between 3 or 4 or 5 variations of Apple's updates to know which ones are appropriate from iOS, and I have to manually type in that whole URL. It'd be nice to be able to click on that and go right to Apple to find out what the differences are.
Yeah, that actually is great content for a feature request. Probably get quite a few upvotes. Yeah, Jamf Nation.
We got people on this side. We'll come back, sorry. I want to have to keep walking back and forth.
Yeah.
Like it's a two-parter, so it's still on the NetSUS, so sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, so if we've got 24-hour interval, whatever we decide to sync to, there seems to be a discrepancy if I enable iTunes 10 or 11.1.1. Clients don't necessarily immediately see it, even after 24 hours, or maybe Apple has it before there's a delay, right? Like when Reposado probably can see it. Do we have an idea of when that delay is? Because people are going to just go, if they're inclined, they might just grab it or whatever. That's one. And then the other, can you just confirm like what the caching server introduces? Does that take priority over, as I understand it, NetSUS or any SUS is definitive, and if there's no SUS, it looks for caching and then or goes straight through to if you haven't set it. I just wonder if you could speak to those delays.
Yeah, so the delay, so there's a sync setting in the NetSUS where you have a time and where you have a time set for updating the catalog directly from the master, or Apple in this case. The sync delay from the client would be between when we actually set so the client has a launch daemon that checks for updates based on an interval, also set from that software update.p list. So if there was a delay, for instance, if it ran at 1 a.m. and the sync is at 3, or so there's 2 different times at play here, which is kind of confusing to me. I mean, you could probably get around that by just doing a sync manually. So anytime you click sync manually, it re-updates. Applies those changes to the catalog, so it should be immediate. Then you only have client-side things that to worry about. The JSS will set it based on your interval, so if you had once per day and it already ran that day, you'd have to wait another 24 hours. So there's 3 different timing at play, and sorry if that didn't get you right off. And the priority caching server is a good question. I don't know offhand. I haven't run them simultaneously, so.
Dr. seems to say that if you have a NetSUS benchmarks, it doesn't, you have a caching server, 0 configuration, it just sees it. I guess.
It sounds dangerous to me.
I know how that works.
Oh,
Give that man a mic.
can we mic everyone up, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Should I hustle?
was it? Thanks, guys.
And the deck will be available too, so you guys can.
So if I understood the question, it's about the interaction between software update service and the caching server. And the way that it works in Mountain Lion server, Maverick server, is the software update service registers with the Apple software update service as a caching server. And so when a client talks to Apple's software update server, it gets the local IP address of the caching server if it's coming from the same subnet. And from the same public IP, it'll get the local IP of the caching server. So the client has to talk to Apple's software update server in order to get the local IP of the caching server, and it needs to come from the same public IP as the caching server. Both the client and the caching server coming from the same public IP is the trigger that Apple sends back to the client. Here's a caching server you can talk to. There's some advanced configuration where you could set up multiple internal subnets. So if you're coming from the same public IP, but you have different VLANs or different subnets inside your network, you can assign different caching servers to those subnets. That, unfortunately, is undocumented, but if you Google it, you can find the secrets that you need.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you.
This is awesome. This is great that we got so many questions.
Yeah.
Hey, my question, it's kind of a two-part question. It's regarding, I know Apple is pushing more the Apple Store, using that for the updates. Has anybody found any issues with that, using the software update servers? And then also with iOS devices and the Apple IDs, if anybody's found any issues with that.
iOS wouldn't be covered in this one, just.
To wrap around your question.
We didn't hear that question.
Yeah, just the second one. The first question, using Apple servers with using the policy.
Well, it's basically because I know Apple is pushing more Apple Store for their updates.
Sure.
So that, and I've seen problems where I go and I'm doing an Apple software update and says, well, I want to use the Apple Store. So I've seen some conflict with that. I'm just wondering, has anybody seen like anything that's going to cause a major problem using a software update server and using the Apple Store?
No, because on Mountain Lion, it jumps to the App Store, and with the NetSUS we use, it's fine. So long as if you actually look at the plist file and go into the system report, we can confirm that it's going to your SUS server. You can check there to have the right address instead of Apple's. Then when the App Store opens, it is downloading it from the SUS server, not getting it from Apple.
It'll tell you too in the window, if you open the app stores, that what you're configured with.
It'll show the source at the bottom of the update window there.
The App Store, that's just a vehicle for delivering software updates. Software updates, from what I had explained to me, they're still delivered the same way they used to be. It's just it's coming in GUI-wise into the App Store. I mean, they still have the software update space -I-8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Just the interface is different now with App Store included. Do we get all of them?
We just have a small annoyance issue. Like we run software updates through a simple policy, but is there any way to get rid of that the App Store notification that there are software updates available, even though it's already updated?
Delete the App Store, yes.
It's a heavy-handed approach.
With the NetSUS appliance, is it possible to run updates for 3 different OSs on there for like Snow Leopard, Lion, and Mountain Lion? And is it best practices to have different branches for each of those, or can you run it from all updates from one repository?
Absolutely. Every branch actually shown that in this case it was root. There's actually in catalog's URL for each one, each different Snow Leopard. Absolutely. The catalog URL would have to be different. Did we specify that in the slides? I don't think that got in there.
No.
Yeah. So there's actually an others folder in there. I don't know if you've navigated through the actual interface. In others, there's 3 for each one, actually. 3 for each one. We have the mountain lion, the lion, and then the snow leopard. And you can point to either one of those catalogs, and it'll be individual for that, those clients. Branch-wise, yes, I'd suggest having multiple branches, maybe even a beta branch, where you can have a select few that can run these your updates, see if it works in your environment. If so, then commit it to root.
But you don't need a separate branch for each
No, you do not.
Could you talk a little bit about how network segments and the update server interact?
And the update server interact. So as long as you're able to resolve the catalog, you should be fine. Are you talking more of the policy?
Yeah, kind of when will you have to rerun the policy to make sure it's set back to Apple if they're not on a network segment?
Right. So JSS 9 now contains network change as a parameter. I'd suggest running a policy there. So then we'd have, it's actually similar to his question over here.
Yeah.
And maybe we can talk about it later, but I'd set a policy for, so limitation of the original set internal. I'm gonna have to think about this. It could be a script, but I'd like to use the native tool. So on network change, then it would have to reassess based on network segment. And so you could have 2 running at the same time to the same clients. Network change would be the trigger, and the limitations of both would be internal or external. You could do it that way. So just run them in parallel.
Sure.
Or exclude it from one, too.
My question is, well, we don't have Casper yet, but based on my other experiences, NetSUS is only for Apple updates, right?
Correct.
And then I assume Casper also pushes out other patches. So it seems to me the user will be prompted twice, one for the Apple stuff, one for everything else. Is there a way to combine so they only get one glass of pane to look at rather than 2? Sort of confusing.
Not as of yet. There may be functionality coming that would address that.
Feature request.
Oh.
Good question, though.
No, we got a great comment.
I just wanted to comment on his question over here about update notification badges on your apps. That's based off Spotlight's cache. So if you just force Spotlight to reindex its cache on this machine, your update badges will go away.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Great tip. Awesome. We got like 4 more on this side. We're so good on time, too.
We got one. Oh, go. Yeah, go. Do it.
Can you talk about the process for upgrading the appliance itself? Because I have the 8.7 themed version. I didn't even know this 9.0 themed version was out. Like, how do you become aware of those updates too?
The updates are actually posted at Jamf Nation. If you follow the resource, it's in third-party software under the NetSUS.
Yeah,
you can follow it there, the most recent version. Typically, they put out a discussion thread where people can talk about it, and that's where the wget. But you can run the run file that I showed there, and it should update. This is just version 2. I think the last one was 102 or 103, 102. This is just version 2.
Yeah, I can actually answer the, when they go off the grid, so to speak, we have a policy that if they check in through the DMZ from outside our network, then a policy applies that tells them to update from Apple, and then when they come back in, it flips that policy again and tells them to, it just changes that P list. My question is regarding the, I don't know if we can do this or not, the Apple Enterprise License Program. We had to have one ID associated with all of iLife and iWork, even though the machines ship with it. We had to take it off because of that, because we have to use the one ID. And if we haven't really leveraged this too much because of this. Are we able to use the NetSUS appliance to update iLife and iWork without being prompted through the App Store for that ID?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm still using the old disk-based version, which is app dies, and the App Store releases it that day and his mode himself, but that's how I'm getting around it.
Can you remove the back apps as well?
Yeah, we talked about over here, if you actually remove the App Store, then it will download directly. But I don't know if it's available if. Oh,
Just the receipt?
Sorry, the receipt.
Yeah, thank you.
So maybe we'll have a discussion after this where we can talk about it.
I'm not sure if I missed the answer before, but when you have different branches and the updates are in different branches, do you actually store different updates, or is that a single file that's then shared between the branches?
A single file that's shared. It still has the same download.
Thank you. Thanks for.
I don't know if we discussed it, but you don't necessarily have to actually come download the files too. So, but yeah, it is a shared one download file.
I noticed a lot of people are leaving, going to head up for lunch. Just want to let you know that on the thrust stage, we have a Nintendo Wii set up. You guys are welcome to come and play Mario Kart. There's no food there, but you can come and get your game on. So we encourage you to do that.
Yeah, we could give a big hand for Bram too. That was great.